Welcome back to the podcast, guys. I'm really excited about today's episode. I've got Jackson Hayes, former teammate of mine, former Buckeye, current fitness and training business owner himself, so very similar to me, and we're going to share some really exciting stories. We actually were literally just sitting here talking for like probably the last 15, 20 minutes, literally about all this amazing stuff, from business to, training to Jackson, building out a facility literally a stone throw away from us that's 24,000 square feet, which we're definitely going to be talking about. But to kind of give you guys a little bit of an intro for this episode, Jackson and I, like I said earlier, we played linebacker together at Ohio State. We were both in the linebacker room together, shared this experience as walk-ons as well. So definitely grinded together on practice squad, doing different reps there. And then also, really developing as athletes. I earned a scholarship like I talked about, on the other episodes. And, Jackson went on to do a strength and conditioning internship with Ohio State and their strength and conditioning staff, which we're also going to be talking about. But what's really cool about Jackson and I's story is that, later on, as I was going through my transition that I've talked about many times on this episode, going through that transition of athlete to my first ever career and job and realizing, hey, this isn't for me. And I made that switch into the field of training. And like I talked about literally in the last episode on episode 5, like it was staring me down the whole time. It was always there. I was always obsessed, with fitness and training as an athlete. I was always so just naturally curious about the why, behind everything that we were doing. And it really led me into, this field and this industry. And what was really cool was early on, I was just trying to build my clientele, and I didn't even talk about this on the last episode. So I think this is such an awesome opportunity to talk about it because it does really align with my story and how I got to where I am. And Jackson's a huge part of that. But, he saw me stepping into the field of just fitness and health and strength and conditioning and all of the above. And he, at the time, was working at a sports performance facility called Athletic Republic. And he was like, hey, man, we need another trainer. And at the time I was literally building up my business. And so I didn't have like a strong source of income at the time. I was like, I just got to like figure this thing out. And so it was almost kind of like a godsend, bro, that you hit me up in that moment. And it was so weird because, and this is no joke, I think it was like either the week before or a couple weeks before, I literally told Christina, I think I maybe told you this, maybe I haven't, but I literally told her, I'm like, I wish I just had something like, in the morning on these days and then in the afternoon on these days that I could train people. And then here you come along, with this opportunity to work at this gym with you. And I'm like, hell yeah, man. Like, this is perfect. It's a salary position. Like, it really did. I mean, I like to think like it really helped me early on, man. Like, I feel like, if I would have just been trying to build my like one-on-one clientele and I didn't have that like supplemental salary and income, like it would have just been a whole different ballgame. So, I know I've told you thank you for that, bro, but I think that this is a really cool opportunity. I always think about that. And like we've grown so much alongside one another, even as trainers and coaches and business owners over the, last 5+ years. And I just think that that's something cool, that we really share. And that helped me a lot too,
Yeah, for sure. We were both just starting out and, we were both trying to get our feet wet in the industry, and it was right after COVID too. So like it was a tough time for people in the industry, and like that job kind of helped springboard both of our careers. So
it really did, man. Yeah. And it probably helped you out a lot too, even connecting with some athletes.
Connecting with athletes. And then just like you said, having that salary position while you're building your clientele, on the side as well, until you were ready to, make that leap to where you didn't need the salary position anymore. So, yeah, no, it was a good spot right after COVID. So
yeah, and dude, that's literally, it's crazy thinking back. Like that's literally when I started my business. Like I decided to make this jump, and it's like boom, there's COVID. But like you said, it was really helpful for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, COVID. I was actually just talking about this the other day. Like there were like two types of people that came out of COVID. Like it was people that just sat there and collected their paychecks and were like, great, I don't have to work anymore. They were golfing every day. They were just doing whatever, sitting on the couch, gaining a bunch of weight. Or there were people that like took it as an opportunity and like put their head down and like help like build their businesses or whatever, and came out on the other side, better. And COVID is really how my business even got started in the first place.
Yeah, dude, because I didn't even think about that. That time period was really around like the same time you were even starting out too.
Yeah, so I had just gotten done with my strength and conditioning internship at Ohio State, like literally December 29th of 2019. So then January 1st, 2020 is like when COVID started to take over. There were no jobs available for strength and conditioning because all the colleges shut down. So it was like trying to find a job was impossible. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was living at, home, but I built a garage gym in my garage.
I remember that. I came over and worked out in it.
So I started renting out time slots in my garage, like a 1-car garage with just a rack and some dumbbells, and started renting out time slots to people that they could individually come and train. And that's kind of how I got started with, training people too, and how I picked up my NFL guys. They needed a place to train. They hit me up on Instagram. We're like, hey, I just need a place to come work out. Started working out there in the garage. And then, eventually I was like, hey, do you guys need somebody? Like, do you know what you're doing? Do you need somebody training you? I just got done doing my internship, yada, yada, yada. And then that's kind of how I started building the relationships was with those guys, was training them out of my garage.
Yeah.
So.
And dude, and something too that I think is so powerful with that is like, maybe, we had the connection with those guys, and we'll talk about this as we get into the meat of the episode, but like, we knew those guys, we played with them. So we had that initial connection, kind of timing wise, they needed something. But what people don't realize is that those guys wouldn't have stayed with you for 5 years if you didn't know your shit. And if you were not dialed in. And I feel like you evolved so much, dude, from the time of us as athletes to you now as the business owner. The strength conditioning internship happened within that. But what do you think were some of the biggest things, like for you growth wise, that you went through, like from our time as athletes? Because you got to see me grow big time, and I got to see you grow big time. Like, I feel like you became a completely different person from athlete at Ohio State to, who you are now as the business owner. Like, what do you think were some of the like most pivotal points throughout that growth for you?
Yeah, I mean, being a walk-on, I was I felt like kind of out of my element, and I was a little bit more timid. I had a lot of injuries in the past. I had 2 shoulder surgeries. I had a foot surgery already. Like, my doctor, after I tore my labrum the second time, told me, like, don't play football again because you're just going to end up tearing it. And I actually had to, when I did my like physical for Ohio State, when I walked on, the doctor made me like sign a paper that was like, if you tear your shoulder again, like, we're not going to pay for you to get it fixed, but proceed at your own risk.
Right.
So, like, I just felt like I was kind of timid and like not trying to get hurt, and just kind of just like not as confident as I am now. And I was just trying to feel my way around and not step on toes and yada,
well, dude, it's awkward. Like, it's like, people don't understand. Like, it is just so intense. At least like when we played there, like, you don't want to mess up, and like the spotlight is on everybody. It's high tension at all times.
Right.
Even in drills and stuff, you don't want to be the guy that nobody knows, and you go in, you mess something up. Like, the spotlight will be on you. Justin and I talked about that in the episode.
Because
it's
like on. You almost like operated out of fear.
Yeah, you
like,
did.
Instead of like knowing that you could like I want to get the experience of going in and like taking this rep, and it was like, I don't want to go in because I'm going to mess this up potentially.
And it's going to just reflect bad.
Right. So, and I had that mindset, and I think now it's kind of evolved where like no one's there to like check me or like see what I'm doing. So it's like, I feel like I am now able to like, try new things, and like it's okay to fail, and like try this, and like just keep going and keep progressing. But it just felt like you had one chance, and if you messed up, everything was over.
Right.
Even though it probably wasn't the case, that's just kind of like how it felt.
You just didn't have many of those mess ups.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You only
had so many.
Yeah, and then you were gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just kind of kept my head down, stayed more low key. I didn't have, I mean, we knew each other. We were cool. But I wouldn't say we're anywhere near as close as we are now. And same thing with the NFL guys, like, the guys that I train, like Dre and Coop, like, we weren't like pals on the team. Like, I don't even remember if we really had any conversations until, afterwards.
Yeah.
And so I think being in the program and being under that kind of tension and stress evolved who I was as a person, and kind of like calloused me and made me tougher and mentally strong and disciplined, and like built the building blocks for my career now. And then I think going from that to the internship program was like what really springboarded me into like who I am now. Like, the grind of the internship program, like transferring the grind of like the physical grind of being an athlete and working out and taking that into like the workplace, and like you're still like you're working 12-hour days, you're doing everything from scrubbing the floor, restocking the fridge, training, then trying to train yourself, and then like like the little tedious
Maybe just like walk
tasks.
through like what was a day of Ohio State football internship.
So you'd wake up at
strength and conditioning internship.
Yeah, so I worked with multiple teams, not just football. My main sports were really men's and women's ice hockey, track and field, baseball. I worked with the football team some. But anyway, you had to be at the facility by 5. So 5 a.m. So it'd be like 4 a.m. wake up for me. And then you'd get there, you'd have like a meeting breakdown for the day, where like they just tell you what groups are coming in, how they want the weight room set up. And then you'd go, like most times the first lift, there'd be like a morning lift at like 6:30. For at least when I was at the Shot is what I'm kind of going through right now with men's and women's ice hockey. And so we'd set up everything for the lift. They'd come in, you'd run your lift, then you would break down, clean up. We'd do everything from like making them shakes to, getting all the equipment broken down. And then after we're done with that, we would go to the next lift. And then you would progress throughout the day. You'd have like 15 to 20 minutes to eat lunch. At this point, they weren't providing us food either. So like you're doing an unpaid internship, not making any money, waking up at 4 a.m. They don't provide you food. And so then you'd pack your lunch or whatever, you'd eat your lunch, and then you'd get into the afternoon. We'd sometimes have like a CSCS, which is like the Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist certification. We'd do like a CSCS prep class. We'd have some sort of like meeting as a whole internship program to kind of go through what's going on. Maybe we'd do some demos for the day. That type of thing in the early afternoon. And then you'd have like your later groups. So then you'd get done around like 5:30 or 6 at night. If you had a game that day, or you like men's and women's ice hockey, men's and women's basketball, like play on a Wednesday or Thursday, like they could play whenever, then you have to stay for the games. So then if you had a game that day, you're not getting out of there till 9 or 10 at night. If it's a normal night, you would, mop and clean all the chalk out of the weight room. You'd restock all of the bars and the snacks for the snack room, restock the Gatorade, do all that stuff for the next morning. And you might get out of there at like 7:30 at night. You go home, you eat your food, and you collapse in bed, and then you wake up and you do it again the next morning.
Well, dude, and I think when we talk through those experiences, obviously at the initial reaction is this is so much and it's so intense, but I believe that there's a lot of people out there that never even go to that length of work to even gain the perspective of what does hard work really look like. Yeah. And when you go there, it just, like you said earlier, it kind of calluses you. And you also understand, you have a whole new perspective of what working hard really means. And then you have like that gauge. And I know that's what you brought with you now, where that's why you're able to work long hours. That's why you're able to literally like handle and deal with all the logistics of a 24,000 square foot facility, all while simultaneously literally running your business. You know what I mean?
So like, I mean, like you said, it's really just that, like, having done it over and over and over again, like from football, it's more physically exhausting, like playing football, but the grind of this industry is definitely like takes a toll on you, like mentally. And so being able to transfer that like physical toughness and discipline and callousness, if that's a word, over into
like the mental side of it.
Yeah, the mental side of it over into your business and what you're doing now, I think is huge. And that's why, like, I've talked to a lot of different business owners and like in multiple industries, not just fitness but sales or whatever. And like former athletes, like always do like more. They always have like really good numbers. And like, that's why like a lot of CEOs will like seek out people that have, played sports at a high level.
100%, dude. 100%. And it really does ingrain just that whole new perspective of work ethic in us. And I do know that that's why we've been able to have the success we've had owning and operating these businesses, man. But, what was that experience like from a training perspective? Like, how much do you feel like you learned a ton from like just a training and like exercise science perspective doing that internship?
That's how I learned everything.
Yeah.
Because like when you're playing football, we were just talking about this. When you're playing football, like you're just doing what you're told.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know why I was doing 3x3 on hang clean or whatever. I just like did it so that I didn't get in trouble. Like just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what the sheet says. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
You don't even have the mental capacity to like wrap your head around what you're doing. You are literally just like doing what you're told.
I swear if you like went up to a strength coach and you were like, hey, why am I doing this? They'd be like, shut up and go now, go. Like,
even though like me now as a trainer, I actually kind of like that because then I'm like, my client actually wants to learn, but just probably not the environment.
In that environment, it's just go. And like, they don't have the time or the mental capacity to explain anything to you at that moment. And they have 100 other guys that they're trying to train at the same time. So like, I understand, but it doesn't allow the athlete to really like learn anything.
Right.
And not everybody is like trying to, but then it kind of prohibits you later in life if you like are done playing and you want to still be fit and still be athletic. Like you don't know what to do. Like you don't have a sheet anymore that tells you what to do or a coach that's yelling at you to tell you what to do. So like you're not actually learning anything. You're just going through the motions of doing it.
Which is exactly why I work with former athletes.
Right. Exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, doing that internship, I learned everything. So, like I said, before that, I didn't have a huge base. Like I enjoyed fitness. I played football at a high level. I was always strong. I spent more time in the weight room and in the training room, honestly, throughout my football career because of injuries. And just like, that's kind of where I excelled. Like I probably was a top percent weight room guy. Like if you put me up against anybody in the way, like I think I had the second.
Yeah, you're strong as fuck.
I think I had like the second longest plate pinch hold, like 45-pound weight. The only person that beat me was Nick Boza.
Yeah,
and I remember that. But so like that's where I excelled and I like really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And so that kind of propelled me into why I wanted to do what I do. But like I said, the internship and the people that I learned from, like it's a culture building thing, but like they really do have like a science behind what they're doing.
100%. Then that's what I think is so important for people to understand, dude, because I think in this day and age, especially, people look at training, like let's just isolate training. They look at it so surface level. Yeah. And it's like, bro, everything that we do from a training perspective serves a purpose. Every single rep, like the rep count, how many sets we're doing, what the whole progression looks like, how we're progressing that progression over time. Every single one of those details matter.
People would be amazed at that level. Like I don't even have time to like plan out all that they do, but like they will have the entire year cycle of training broken down based off of when we're practicing and how much load they're going to be practicing. And then like developmental lift versus starter lift. You have like every microcycle is broken down throughout and how much load you're doing and total load and volume. And like it's insane how they have everything laid out. And like I learned how to do all that stuff. It's very time consuming. That's why like most strength coaches only focus on like one sport because it's just so time consuming to do all that. But then even just like the technique stuff, like is huge. So like we would have our, we would have like demo days, like I talked about, where like they would break down, like, how do we do the hang clean?
Good.
Or like,
that's good shit.
How do we like, and not just how to do it yourself, but how to
coach it.
Yeah. So like it's different than just doing it. Like I can do a hang clean. I'm not great at it, but I can do it. But coaching it, you know, is
entirely
different. Right. And getting other people to understand how to do it. And like everything from, you know, deadlift, trap bar, like all the exercises. And I worked with, like, you'll appreciate this because you were really into Olympic lifting. I don't really do it much anymore, but, the track and field was all Olympic lifting. Like all it was Olympic lifting, and I sucked at it. I was terrible at it. And so like it would be me and the track coach would go in there and like he would just make me do like combos all the time.
Like complexes.
Complexes, yes. He would make me do like Olympic lifting complexes, like all
Hard.
day long until like I could figure it out. Like we worked on mobility, like getting our elbows up and the wrist mobility. And like eventually I got good at it.
Yeah.
And then I lost it because I stopped doing it.
Well, dude, you see those lifts too. Like people, when they're scrolling on social media, you know, they'll see somebody do an Olympic lift and it looks so seamless and easy, especially if the person doing it is really good at it.
Yeah.
But it is so complex, bro.
Right.
Every little joint angle. Like when you guys think about like you're doing a bicep curl, you're moving through your elbow. When you're doing an Olympic lift, you're moving through every single major joint in the body, which also involves a lot of potential room for error, which is why technique and form. I think, dude, doing my USAW, like what a lot of the strength coaches do, like the Olympic weightlifting cert, that really showed me and reinforced how important form and technique truly is. I talk about this a lot, but I'm like, bro, how can we build a muscle that we're not even using in the first place? Or how can we even, hit an area of the body we're trying to target if we're just overcompensating with another area of the body? So it's like, that technique and that form in these demos you guys were doing, it's everything. It's so important.
And like, if you don't know how to teach it, then people just avoid it.
Right.
Which I do understand in some instances. Like if you only have an 8-week training block to get athletes better, it might not be the best use of your time to spend 4 weeks trying to teach them how to
teach the skill.
Yeah, because it's such a complicated lift. And you can still, develop power through a clean pull or explosive jumps or weighted jumps or whatever. But that doesn't mean you should just if you have a longer training block, or like you're starting with a young athlete in middle school and you're going to be training them like for a long period of time, knowing how to really teach the technique of those complicated lifts is huge in being able to develop those athletes over a long period of time.
Dude, 100%. And I love what you said there, because I think that's a really good talking point, is like, the Olympic lifts are fantastic. Like you said, you can do them, but maybe the technique and the skill isn't the best. I love them because like I've really developed that skill and technique over time, but it's taken me a long time.
Exactly.
It'll take me a long, long time. But dude, I think it's really important to isolate that, because just like you said there, you can drive the same stimulus or very similar of a stimulus that you're getting from those Olympic lifts with other variations. Like, what are some of those variations you like? I know you like to use some of those with your NFL guys, your youth athletes. Like, what are some of those?
So like for me, just the risk of injury of the catch is why I tend to steer away from Olympic lifts with the NFL guys and with some of the athletes. And it's not because it's a dangerous lift. It's just, it takes a long time to get going.
To get good at it.
When I only have like the NFL guys are here for like 8 weeks, it's not worth me like coaching them up. And they're to a point like where they're just as good as they're going to get at it.
Yes.
But we do clean pulls a lot from the floor. We do like trap bar, clean pulls and power shrugs, trap bar and dumbbell jumps. Anything that's reaching triple extension. So like we're going to do like broad jumps and vertical jumps. Like I said, the clean pulls, I'm trying to think. We don't really do anything like overhead.
You do like a lot of the landmine explosive work.
We'll do like, so we don't do, that's true. So like, I don't do like jerks or like push press or anything, but we'll do like landmine push press, like
friendly angle on the shoulders.
Yep, exactly. Because the key with them is to keep them healthy.
Yes.
And so, getting that stimulus like you're talking about with the maximum, or the least amount of risk for injury is huge.
Like getting to that stimulus as efficiently as possible.
And just like being able to accommodate different people, and like especially working with high level athletes, they all have injuries.
They all have shit.
So like I'm working with a guy right now who had surgery on both of his thumbs. Yeah. So like, how are you supposed to do anything when you don't have both of your thumbs? Well, okay, we're using the safety bar and we're doing like safety bar split squat and safety bar box squat. And he can't really hold anything, but we found gloves that have the little hooks on them. And so we hook his hands and we can still do like trap bar deadlift. And he can hold dumbbells for walking lunges and like things like that. So finding ways to accommodate different injuries. I got a guy that has a really like grade 3 AC sprain in his shoulder. It's nasty work. It's gross. Yeah. But, so he can't really like press that well. So we have to be able to hit like upper body stimulus without pressing and he can't go overhead. So like doing different things to be able to accommodate those injuries. And you learn a lot of that from like working with athletes during the internship.
Yes. And bro, what you're talking about right there, I love, because I truly believe, like, you see a lot of trainers, I've worked around a lot of trainers. I've seen a lot of trainers, and like, I truly believe that is a unique skill, like understanding at a deep level how to regress something and meet someone exactly where they're at, say, hey, they can't do this intended variation, but we have the knowledge and the ability to say, hey, that's okay. We know a different variation, maybe a regressed or just different variation that is going to work well for you and your body, and we're still going to get the outcome we're looking for. And that's why I'm big on, and I'm so big on this, and you know this, chase the stimulus. Who cares about the load?
Yeah.
The load is a byproduct of the stimulus we are trying to drive.
Right.
But we get so caught up in the weight, and everybody's so weight hungry and weight happy. And I firmly believe that that's why people get injured. That's why people have pain when they train, is because when they're on that fine line of, do I focus on the form and the technique, or do I cross that threshold and focus more on the load? That is a very fine line. And you have to be a professional with a high level of attention to detail to say, we're not going to cross that line, because we know we're going to get diminishing returns. And especially when you're working with an NFL athlete whose career is on the line, I would argue any athlete, why would we even risk it? Why would we even at all cross that line?
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of are hitting on like exactly what I do, because so working with NFL athletes, like I'm really their only trainer in the off season. Like they're not really working with anybody else. So I can create a program that's like just for them. And it's like everything that they're doing. But when I'm working with high school and middle school athletes, like most high schools now have like a strength and conditioning program. And at their strength and conditioning program, they're hitting their squats, their benches, their deadlifts.
They're doing their powerlifting.
They're doing their strength work there. So what I really focus on is that like explosive training and working on like your central nervous system and those type 2 muscle fibers, and like trying to be as fast and explosive as possible.
Being mobile.
And mobility and running form and change of direction and plyometrics and all the things that they're not hitting during their school lifts. So when you're talking about like chasing the load, for me working with athletes, we're focused on like speed.
Yes.
So, there are kids that like come to me and they need to put on weight. So like, yes, we are going to do like some hypertrophy training, but most of the people that I work with are really trying to focus on that speed and agility aspect. So I do a lot of velocity-based training. Mm-hmm. So everything isn't how much weight can you lift, it's can you lift it at the speed I want you to lift it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, the force velocity curve, if you want to get all nerdy, right? The force velocity curve, there's speed, strength, there's strength, speed. Then there's, max speed, and then there's like your max load, so like moving it slow, right? So you have these different thresholds that you want people to hit, and you want to hit all of them. Like you want to hit your max strength sometimes, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. But then you also want to hit your max speed. So like you use really lightweight and you see how fast you can do it. So then what we'll do is we'll set like 0.75 meters per second, right? Is like speed strength. So we'll say, okay, you can load up the trap bar deadlift for 3 reps until you can't hit 0.75 anymore. Mm-hmm. And so like you're really focusing on like the speed of the movement rather than the load of the movement. And then that kind of fixes that whole like problem of, form. Cause if you're
100%.
So, and that's kind of how I like to do things with my athletes, just because it creates a couple different things actually. One is less risk for injury. 2 is it makes people compete. Yeah. Like that instant feedback of not just like that kid's stronger than me, but like you look and like, oh, he can move 185 at 0.75. I'm going to move 195 at 0.75. Or like you're like, hey, I want you to move this as well. I put 225 on the bar for everybody. Okay, I want you to move it as fast as possible. Oh, this kid hit 0.95. I'm going to hit 0.96. Mm-hmm. And like, so like it creates that competitive environment without chasing the load, where like you're getting competitive and your ego lifting, where like your form is bad. Yes. So you can still create that competitive environment and instant feedback without the diminishing returns of bad form.
And I think that subpar coaches do not understand that differentiation.
Yeah.
And I think what takes all of this to a whole nother level as well is look at the well-rounded mindset you have around training. Like think about some of the high school programs, that you've seen, and I know I've seen, where we're just lifting heavy, we're just doing strength. Okay, well, what about the speed work? What about the mobility?
Yeah.
What about the potential hypertrophy work that we need for these young athletes to put on size and put on muscle?
Right.
Why are we not taking that well-rounded approach? And I think if more people would do that, we'd have much better athletes.
100%. And I've done it's hard. It's really hard to get into high schools to do the strength and conditioning programs. But so I do my best to not double dip. Like,
right.
If you're like, I would say hardly ever, like my NFL guys do, because like I said, I'm running their training program for everything. But like my high schools and middle school kids rarely like ever do a compound, like rarely ever squat, like regular squat.
Yeah.
Rarely ever, straight bar deadlift, and
Right.
rarely ever, bench.
Yeah.
Like we'll do, single arm unilateral variations. We're doing single legs. We're doing contrast between, single leg movements and single leg jumps. And trying to do more like unilateral work and explosive work and plyometrics rather than double dipping what they're doing. And then we usually end with some sort of like hypertrophy work at the end.
Do you see that like helps them from like a developmental standpoint? Like it's good to like almost work like that, might like really get into the details and the foundation to be able to like build on top of that. Basically.
Yeah, I think too, like doing all the unilateral.
Because getting them on one leg, like you know how that is with kids. Like you throw them on one leg
hard.
and it's like.
So doing the unilateral work just like helps with their athletic ability so much. Like,
and it's rehabbing. The reason I always love unilateral work, bro, is like you're literally rehabbing your body in real time while you're training.
Right, because you're just like evening out your imbalances. With the youth athletes, the high school athletes, middle school athletes, like I said, we have some kids that come in and like we're doing a single leg triple jump. So where you jump on your right leg, your right leg, your right leg, and then you land on 2 feet. And like kids are falling on their face the first day.
Right.
And then like it just, the more you do it, like it starts to click in their brain and you can like see it happening in real time where like the first rep they're falling and then they like kind of get it and then they do it. And like, then it's just like building that athleticism over time and like the neuromuscular, like everything's just kind of like sinking in their mind. And like the mind muscle connection is like finally getting there. It's really cool to see, but in sports, you're rarely ever on 2 feet, like ever. When you're sprinting, you're always on 1 foot. Like you're rarely ever like 2 feet in the ground. So like you doing all that unilateral work, pressing, like upper body as well, is huge and a big part of like what I do in my programs with my athletes, from young athletes to the pro guys.
Dude, and I see it, and I know you've seen it, but over the course of you being a trainer and a coach, like, haven't you seen how that unilateral work like always translates over to the bilateral work? Like we could take a break from doing like a heavy compound, like main compound lift, and hammer some unilateral shit for a while. And like, you'll come back to that and be so strong.
Yeah. Agreed. 100%.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to see. But dude, I think this conversation is so money because it's really like kind of bridging that gap between like the NFL style training that you're doing to like youth athletes to even the style of training that I do with former athletes. And Jackson and I, within the last year, did something really cool where we had essentially like my former athlete guys like Roy Hall, who's been on the podcast, who played football at a high level for the NFL, Brady, who we played with at Ohio State. You had, Jonathan Cooper, Draymond, these guys, and we're in this workout together. And like, while your guys are elite NFL athletes, like they're very obviously moving like faster in some of these things, but like my guys were able to keep up the whole time. And I think that it's testament to that like regress training where like, if you know how to regress that stimulus to the point where, okay, we can meet that person where they're at and then build them back up. I mean, dude, sky's the limit of where we can truly take that. Yeah. It's just the gap is bridged by the ability to regress the training. And I've seen that, dude, and I feel like you'll appreciate that. I've learned that big time training my parents, like, finding variations, we'll be working out or training and I have to find something that they can actually do because they can't do the main lift, and it bridges the gap.
Yeah. I train quite a few like older individuals too, where like I'm still taking the same exercise, like concepts, but just making it to a level of which, like, for instance, a box step up, like a regular young person might be able to step up on an 18-inch box with 20-pound dumbbells in their hand, but somebody else, like, you might have to go all the way down to a 6-inch box and put light dumbbells in their hand and allow them to step up and step back down like they're walking up the stairs.
100%.
Like, so doing like simple things like that, lowering the box, lowering the load or whatever it is, or changing the movement completely because it hurts their knees or hurts their back, or they can't load their spine, so you put them on a belt squat. Like there's so many different ways that you can change the
like the delivery,
the delivery, but still hitting the stimulus.
Yes, exactly, bro. And I think something else you said in there that I really like is just how it can help, especially when there's like injury or you're coming back from an injury. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, and I don't want to say this where it's like discounting physical, because physical therapists, like you're going to need your physical therapist when you have these very foundational issues and you're dealing with structural pain and structural injury. But a lot of rehab is essentially regressed training. When we get injured in football or we get injured, like what that physical therapist is doing with us is just, in a lot of ways, regressed training.
Well, and there's a difference, like if you want to get on this topic, there's a difference between return to activity and return to play. Like there's a lot of times, unfortunately, like for instance, if you tear your ACL and you're going through physical therapy at Ortho One or any of those places, right? And you get like 10 weeks of physical therapy post ACL tear, which is actually at week 10 to like 12 is the highest point of re-tear that there is. And then they clear you and they say, oh, you're good for activity. Well, what does activity mean? And so like at that point they had just like at week 10, you're like just starting to like straight line sprint and they clear you for activity. What happens when you go to change direction? What happens when you go to jump? What happens when you go to this, to do that? And so there needs to be something that bridges the gap between physical therapy and like actual playing of a sport, because in physical therapy, a lot of times like everything is predicted movement. Well, sports isn't predictable. You have to be able to react and move and change. And like that stuff isn't necessarily worked on in those, I'm just using ACL as an example, in those 10 weeks that are paid for by insurance. And then, so a lot of people that don't know, like it's not their fault. They just don't know.
Yeah.
This
isn't common knowledge.
No. Okay. You just go back to, okay, they said I can return to activity, and then you go out and you play soccer the next week. You're like, hey, they cleared me. You play soccer the next week and you tear it again. Like it happens.
Have you seen this?
Yeah. It happens all the time, especially, female athletes are just more likely to suffer ACL tears. And so if you don't have something that is, bridging the gap, or you're not working with someone like us or somebody that is in the industry that knows, and there are some physical therapists that do a good job. Like there are like a post ACL, like return to play protocols that therapists run. But if you don't know and you just leave one of those generic orthopedic rehab places and you just go and return straight to play, like your likelihood to re-tear is very, very high.
And that's like where the details of what we're talking about, being a specialist, like are so important, bro, because this is not common knowledge and people don't know that, and people don't understand like how to bridge that gap. So having a specialist like you, or myself who can help bridge that gap is everything, dude. And having someone who has that knowledge like you have of like how to meet them kind of where they're at post, that 10 weeks or whatever you explained.
It reminds me of like Stu.
Yes.
So at Ohio State, there's a physical therapist. His name is Stu, and like he does normal physical therapy. He rehabs the guys from whenever they get their injury until they're completely ready to go. But his like
he's an
specialty,
animal. He's a beast.
Like he used to work with the Patriots and Tom Brady and all those guys, and like his specialty is like that return to play.
Like he could do it quick.
Yeah. So he rehabs you in the physical therapist office, but then he's the guy that takes you out on the field and is doing like
reintroducing the stimulus.
Reintroducing running, reintroducing sprinting, reintroducing changing direction, reintroducing reaction to be able to plant and change directions not predictably. And he's the one doing all those things. And that, like, obviously a place that is elite like Ohio State is going to have those type of people, but in your everyday, Joe Schmo or facility or like, high school doesn't necessarily have that person with that kind of knowledge. So I think, making sure, you're able to regress those training protocols, not just lifting, but also like sprinting, changing direction,
100%.
like actually playing
like the nature
sports.
of the sport.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, dude. And I feel like, you've probably learned so much like working, I know I have learned just so much working with all the people. You learn so much through doing, bro.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you training those guys, those NFL athletes, some of the top guys in the league, Jonathan Cooper, Draymond Jones, what are some of the biggest things you feel like you've learned as a trainer and coach, like coaching guys of that caliber? I know you learn a lot probably, but
sometimes like I think too, like keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Like you see all those videos on Instagram of people like balancing on Bosu balls and doing ropes at the same time, or like doing stupid stuff. Like they still need like the same basic principles that everybody else needs. And as long as you're like the same thing, as long as you're hitting those stimulus, like they're still going to progress.
Mm-hmm.
And, they might be able to do more weight, move stuff faster, run faster, but like, not that I do the same exact programs with my NFL guys that I do my middle school athletes, but like we're still doing like the same change of direction drills, just regressed. We're still doing the same sprint drills, just regressed. We're still doing like my middle school athletes are still doing dumbbell jumps,
Mm-hmm.
just like my NFL guys are doing, just with less weight. And so like some people try and make it so complicated, and guys like they've started to understand that stuff is like gimmicky.
Yes.
Like they don't want to go somewhere and have like all this stuff strapped to them. And like they like, at least the guys that I work with, like they want to squat, they want to bench, they want to deadlift, they want to jump, they want to sprint. And like those basic concepts stay the same from whether you're a youth athlete to an NFL athlete.
100%.
At first, like when I was more naive and like I just started training these guys, I was like trying to look stuff up on Instagram. Like, what are these cool trainers doing? Like, what are these guys doing? What is this doing? And then like, just to try and like make sure that they didn't get bored with me, or like, cause like at that point I was like, I need these guys.
Yeah.
Now it's, I love them to death, but it's kind of like, they need me now.
They need you now.
Right. So, like trying to, get away from like all the gimmicky stuff and just go back to like what I believe in and like what I know works, has been huge too. And like, I think that's kind of the confidence part that we talked about earlier, where it was like, before I was, not as confident. I was like, I just got to do whatever I can to keep these guys. I got to do this, got to do that, got to find these gimmicky things. And now it's just like, okay, guys, now they believe in me.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, this is what works.
Mm-hmm.
And they've seen it. Like they signed $50 and $60 million contracts. Like they've seen it work. And now they, believe in me, and I can just do, what I do.
I was going to ask you that. Like, I feel like in my training career, because it's easy to happen, especially early on when you get kind of distracted by kind of like what you're saying, like all the other shit. But I feel like over time, man, as that evidence builds, like I talked about this a lot on multiple episodes in the past, but as that evidence starts to build, like, okay, you go through that period, but then you really, really dial into what you believe in. You're like, I know this is my shit. This is what I learned at the Ohio State internship. I've seen this work with athletes. I've used these methods and they've worked with athletes. Like, and then that's just going to reinforce and put evidence behind those methods and those techniques. But like, do you feel like there was any pivotal moment through that where, you were either doing things with them or like, you went back to something maybe that just like helped you gain that confidence or reinforce that confidence behind like your approach with them? Like, did you see anything like, hey, I was doing this with these guys and I'm seeing direct evidence?
Yeah. I mean, you can see it in their play. Like, like, I really pay attention. Like, I like watch their film sometimes and like see, like, I really like every time they play, I try and like sit down and watch their games. And like, I'll pull up clips, like the one that I know for sure, like that they really like and I really like, and that I actually learned from the hockey strength and conditioning coach at OSU, is those landmine skater lunges.
Oh man, those are
so you're
good.
Leaning into the plate and you're at like a 45-degree angle, like you're bending the edge. So most of my guys play like D line, and so you're really putting horizontal and vertical force into the ground at the same time. And there's not very many exercises that do that. Like most of the time you're either like straight up and down vertically or you're horizontal, like one or the other.
Rarely at that like ankle angle.
Right, exactly. And so you see, us doing that exercise and increasing and progressing and gaining and upping the weight over time. And then like we even do them sometime for speed. And and then you watch their film and you see them put their foot in the ground and bend at that angle around a tackle. And it's just like you can see it really, like
that evidence
right there. And then like not only, and you kind of have to combine things, right? It's not just that exercise that did it, right? But we've been doing curved runs and we're doing figure 8 drills around the cones, and we're doing like all these things that now it's just adding to that stimulus. So like the skater lunge is the vertical and horizontal force aspect of it, and it's producing maximum force, but then we also have to do that while we're running, right? And at a maximum speed and velocity, and being able to bend and move and dip and do all those things. But like as it like comes together, and then you see it like in their play.
Yes. First off, thank you to everyone for tuning into the podcast and showing your support. I really wanted to show my appreciation by offering you an entire month of training for free. Yes, you heard that right. An entire month. And so if you use code podcast at checkout with the Everyday Athlete Training app, you will get your whole entire first month for free. And this training program is the perfect blend of mobility, strength training, bodybuilding, conditioning, which is great for former athletes and just everyday people who want to get leaner, stronger, and more athletic. So if you're tired of traditional training programs that only really focus on one specific area of your fitness and you want a much more well-rounded approach, then this is for you. Each workout is progressed for you inside of the Everyday Athlete Training app, and we'll keep track of all of your data over time. This guarantees that you make improvements in your training and see real results while also learning new exercises and skills along the way. Every single one of my guys in this program stays engaged and looks forward to their training every single day. So if you're ready to start seeing real results, head to the show notes after today's episode to join the Everyday Athlete Training app. Again, use code podcast to get your entire month for free. And dude, that's where I think like, and even for us as we're talking through this, and I think, you know, people listening will understand this through this conversation. I love how individualized we're talking right now because there's this mindset, dude. And I even see it with like customers and clients where they're like, do you have this program for this thing? And like, that's all great and dandy. But what's so cool about what we do and a lot of the approach we take is while we will have kind of standardized methods, we, in a lot of ways, are always customizing to the individual. Yeah. And I think that that is just like so powerful. And when you do that, because I've done that and I've done a lot of different things. So like through that customization, I've tried, you know, this way of doing this progression. I've tried, you know, that conditioning, or I've tried, you know, that superset, or like, you know, doing this explosive movement with like this slower movement, or, you know, this heavy movement with a body weight movement. And that's what's cool is like you start to gain that evidence through experience and you start to see all of these things that are working. I was going to actually ask you, like, now that you're on that other side, you've got that evidence, like what would you go back and tell like your younger self, like as a trainer and coach?
Just, I mean, if you know your stuff, like just be confident in it, and don't let like the fancy, like don't get caught up in like the super fancy, like things that are catching people's eye, that are going viral on Instagram. If that's not what you believe in. Now, if this dude's going viral for like deadlifting,
a good reason,
super good amount of weight, and his form's great and yada, 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 then that's awesome.
Right.
But like, not the fancy stuff. And I think too, I was actually talking to somebody else about this the other day, like in the training industry right now, like we get caught up in like the technology too. Cause like I'm looking at trying to get some tech for my gym, and like, yes, technology is cool and it can be useful, but like, what are you actually going to do with that data is everything. Right. So like, if I collect all this data, but I don't have time to interpret it or change anything and do anything different, then it's pointless.
Kind of useless.
Right. So, you know, don't necessarily get caught up in all the, I have to have this because they have it. I have to do this because they have it. I have to do this. No, like you can still like speed trap bar deadlift, for example, or clean pull or whatever it is, and just tell your guys to move fast without actually having something that reads it.
Yeah.
Now, is it cool to have something that reads it and like gives instant feedback? Awesome. But you can still use that methodology without it.
100%.
So don't get caught up in like the fancy stuff that you feel like you need to have. Like people trained for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years without any technology. They used stones and barbells and like, so, you know, don't get caught up in all the fancy stuff that you think you need to have to be a successful trainer.
Dude, and that is so key. I think it transcends even, just the tools. And it's really just the foundation of just the basics, bro. Like we talk about that a lot. And I think so many people, and I get it because some of this shit's hard. I get it. Everyone's kind of chasing a shortcut, but like this stuff that we're talking about, it is all about the basics. And it's literally about, and that's why early on in the conversation, I was talking about how a lot of people, and I hope through this conversation, they see how complex the training really is. But a lot of people kind of look at it at the surface. And you see that a lot. We were having that conversation about the testosterone, like guys jumping on testosterone before they're even doing a progressively overloaded training program. Right. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. Let's get the basics, foundational stuff cemented. Yeah. And then let's maybe focus on the extra stuff. Right, exactly. And I just think if more people could really grasp that, we wouldn't have so many people frustrated.
I get kids on the first day. What supplement should I be taking? I was like, hey, just
slow down.
Yeah. Let's just train for a couple weeks first. You'll see how your body changes, and then we can throw some stuff in there.
Well, and so many people nowadays, dude, I feel discount or they almost don't give as much credibility to training because it's almost like people are dude, I have this philosophy basically that so many people have been exposed to just shitty training that they truly believe it can't help them. They have never experienced an environment of true, great, progressive training. You will get progress, you will get results. But so many people never even are exposed to that. So they legitimately, bro, have this perspective. And I know this because we work in it. People have this perspective that that training can't actually help increase my testosterone or that training can't actually help me lose body fat.
There'll be people sometimes that I'll go up to in the gym and or whatever and be like, I'm not inferring that they're doing steroids. I'm just like, hey man, what are you doing? You look really good. And instead of being like, yeah, man, I'm training 3 days a week. I got my nutrition dialed in. There's trend.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what I was asking.
Right.
They just automatically assume that is what's helping them and that is what's doing it, not themselves.
Yes.
Not the training program, not whatever. It's whatever that supplement is or steroid is that they're taking.
Yeah. And dude, you see the flip side where guys can even take that crap and look like crap, and still perform and not
if you don't know what they're doing. Yeah.
It's just complimentary and it's an added thing. And I just think I would just wish more people respected the game because you can change so much, bro, about your biology, about your physique, about your health by just getting high quality training and nutrition. Yeah. But it's just we're living so far off the mark. And people are living so far off the mark that they truly believe. We live in a world, how crazy is that, bro? That people truly believe those things cannot help them.
Yeah.
Because they've never been exposed to a legitimate approach. And then the approaches that they do take, they're tainted by it because maybe they did it user error. We see that a lot in this industry. There's user error that took place. So they did it wrong, but then they think it didn't work when in reality, they just did it wrong.
Yeah.
We see that all the time. Calorie deficit is a great example.
Also, it's not just that they think it's not going to work. They convince themselves it's not going to work because they don't want to do the work.
That's
so a lot of people if I can just now, I think that some of the medications and things that are coming out, can be a useful tool. So I'm not knocking people that are on Mounjaro or Ozempic or whatever.
A lot of doctors, good doctors talk about it. A lot of these functional doctors that I really like, they'll talk about it as it will help get us.
It's a supplement.
Stepping stone.
Yes.
But it's not a forever
right.
thing.
And then people are well, if I can just take a shot, why would I work out? If I can if this is the shortcut, why would I do it? But if it's used in conjunction with a training program and proper nutrition, your results are going to be 10 times better than if you just take the supplement.
Yes. Dude, that's what we were talking about before this episode where I have nothing against guys, getting on synthetic testosterone replacement if that's what they really want to do for their health. But where I think there's an issue is where we have a subpar training program. You're not even progressively overloading. You're doing just random stuff in the gym. Your nutrition sucks and your lifestyle is subpar.
If you haven't maximized your genetic potential, then you shouldn't be going to anything synthetic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And plus, what's going to happen to the body if the foundation isn't built and you're just throwing something into the body to overcompensate for the habits that we arguably should probably change.
Right.
And that's just where I have an issue where I'm look, we are going way too quick to this stuff versus let's again respect the game. Let's look at the nutrition.
And people always want the quick fix instead of realizing that it's going to take time.
Right.
None of this is going to happen overnight. Mm-hmm. And whether that's with athletic performance or whether that's with physique or weight loss, none of it is going to be like a quick fix.
Yes.
So it's just kind of hard with like the instant gratification of today's society, like getting people to understand that like it's going to take time. And also like, you know, I know we've talked about this and you've talked about this, like it's not just about the result, like the journey of getting to that result is where like the actual progress is made. Like that's where you're getting more discipline. That's where your mental toughness is getting better. That's where like your mood is increasing. That's where like you're just like, you're going to be happier and you're going to live a better lifestyle if all these things are aligned together. And then you get the result. Like it's not just like what you want result. It's the journey and the process to get to the result. That's actually what is the best part.
Absolutely. And how ironic that like all of those things we talked about, your journey with Ohio State football internship, uncomfortable as shit,
terrible,
sucked, like hard as hell. Our experience at Ohio State as football athletes, very similar, but guess what? We gained so much confidence.
Yeah.
We went through discomfort. We became better because of it. We've talked about this theme that we're talking about right here has been the constant theme in every single one of these episodes, bro.
Yeah.
Is literally working through the hard shit and overcoming it on the other side. And you will literally always be better for it.
Yeah.
And the problem we face, and it resembles a fitness journey, is people don't want to go through that. And then, but you never see the other, you never learn all those amazing things. I think about like some of these men that I've worked with, and I said this on a recent one of these episodes, like how they legitimately change their life when it starts with training and nutrition. Like, how does that happen? It's because if you allow that journey to take hold and you welcome it in and you're open to it, and a lot of guys struggle to be open to this.
Yeah.
If you're open to it, it can have a profound impact on your life. Look at how our journeys have literally changed our life. Like, bro, you're not like, you don't endure the process. You ain't building a 24,000 fucking square foot facility.
Well, that's kind of where I was going to go, is like, it makes me think of that, like you seen like the meme where like the guy's digging in the
I think about that all the time, bro.
In the ground, and like the diamonds are just like a little bit further, but he gives up because like he's been doing it for so long. Like people just give up so quickly. Like one thing, like one door closes and instead of like
it's
another
like,
door opens, they just like turn
done.
around.
Yeah.
It's like one thing gets, well, that's not going to happen. Let's like, dude, sometimes like I was like,
dude, literally, yeah. Talk about like how long that took. Like,
so I started this gym process, I mean, back in like 2020 with Zach. Like Zach, you know, we started this business together, and like we haven't really gotten into this. We started it together.
This is a good time to talk about
so
this.
We got into this business together. We were both training. The Relentless Training was supposed to be an online platform for training, and we were also doing our in-person training separately, but the online was together. You know, Zach decided that he wanted to go, or we started basically trying to get a gym open. We made a business plan. We got all our projections together. We went and talked to investors. You know, things fell through, blah, 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 blah. You know, me and Zach are still really good friends. He decided, hey, I want to take this more online. I'm not going to do in-person training anymore. I kind of want to do my own thing. You know, a gym might not be the best idea for me. I want to have freedom to travel. I don't want to be locked in. You know,
a really cool conversation we had. Like I look back on that and I'm like,
and
dude,
we were
so
very
cool.
mature. Like,
yes,
you know, just because someone doesn't want to do the same thing as you, or like you put in all this work and they want to change direction, if that's going to make them happy, like I have nothing against what Zach is doing, and he had nothing against me, and we worked it out, and you know, now we're still good friends.
Yeah.
But you know, we had that conversation. Zach's like, I'm going to go all online. He's killing it online. And me, I'm like, look, ever since I was in middle school, you know, even Zach was like, dude, online's the way to go. Online's the way to go. I'm telling you, dude, online's the way to go. Scale online. We can scale more. And I'm like, dude, I just really like training people in person. Like,
and how ironic that I came back. I talked about that on the last podcast. And even with CJ, we're like, bro, in my head, I talked about this with Brady and Roy, literally in their session this week. I'm like, and this is what's so just crazy, bro. And I think this is why self-awareness is so fucking powerful, bro, because it can redirect you. Because in my head, online. In my heart, training in person. Like I literally, when I leaned into that, I was like, like I thought this is what I wanted, bro. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I genuinely, I was telling Brady and Roy that, dude, like, and I learned that about myself over these years. And this is how I know I'm just doing the right shit. Is like, I get so fired. I love training people in person, bro. Yeah. It's like the energy I get, like teaching them, coaching them up, the motivation, everything about it. Like I could be having like a shit day, bro, and like I am coaching them up on their form or technique, and it like lights me up. And I'm like, I know I'm in the right space. But to your point, it's like, that's what's so hard about this process as a business owner is like, you've got to make these hard decisions, dude, constantly.
Yeah. Cause even then, like, you know, I'm thinking, you know, nothing against you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, man, do I want to go online? And I'm like debating that in my mind. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll make an online program, see how it does. If that takes off, then like, I'll just do online.
Yeah.
You know, but it was like hard to really like focus on both at the same time, and how I was going to scale the online while doing the business, while making enough social media to promote the online, while making
it's a lot, bro.
It's like a lot.
People don't know, dude.
It's a lot to do by yourself. And like the programming for all of it is a lot. So anyway, I decided, I'm like, look, this is what I wanted to do since high school. I want to open a gym. Like I've had the same dream since we started this massive.
You always did, bro.
Massive facility, like 12,000, like split idea, performance and 24/7 gym. And, you know, I've had this since the beginning. Like a lot of people were in my ear saying, hey man, why don't you just start small? Why don't you just open this small 2,000 square foot training facility and then build your way
I know
up?
that's where my mind was at. I mean, think about that again, dude. Like we had evidence of other business owners we talked to and like other people where they like use that model where it was like start small and build. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
But it's just that lesson of like, when you know what the fuck you want. And I said this on multiple of these podcasts, bro. It's like when you know, because that's like what I experienced, dude, at Ohio State. Like when I was a walk-on, bro, like I knew it. Like I knew deep in me I was going to play. Like even when I was like fucking up and like not playing, I like had this weird, just like I had it in me, dude. And like every person around me was like, it's not happening. Like, what are you doing? Why are you trying? And like it happened because I believed in it.
And that's what
same thing with
like,
you.
Probably with you too. Like I love when people tell me I can't do something.
Yes. Yes. I fucking love it.
Like I had so many, like there were people that supported me and believed in me, but there were also like, you know, nobody came up to my face and was like, you're never going to do that. You suck.
Right.
But there were always people like
comments
like,
and shit.
Like, yeah. And like, you know, people, like I said, people were, you know, open a small space, expand, open a small space, expand. And then, you know, I even looked at it. Like I went and looked at smaller spaces and I was like, but the like in my mind, my business plan and how I had everything, if I'm doing that, I'm just training. So my what I want to be able to do is make a profit, right? If we're going to go into business, make a profit without it being directly correlated to my time. Right now, I train somebody in person, I get paid for that hour, and then I, you know, go on to the next person and I get paid for that hour. Well, eventually you run out of hours.
Yep.
And
we both have hit that wall and it's hard.
You can't scale anymore.
Yeah.
If I go and open up a 2,000 square foot facility, I am still training that hour and getting paid for my time. And now I'm paying more to train out of that place.
Yes.
So it just didn't make any sense. So for me, I was like, okay, what can I do to create passive income and still be able to train on top of that? And like, yes, my overhead is astronomical. It's a 24,000 square foot place, but we have streams of income from a 24/7 gym. We have classes. We have a recovery room. We have performance training. We have yoga. We have Pilates. We have all these different things that are going to create passive streams of revenue. And that's kind of where, you know, my goal is to be able to, you know, eventually just train the people, you know, that I want to train.
Absolutely.
You know, to be honest, there's some people that you just don't want to train.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, people that come in and complain all the time or whatever.
That's what I'm honest to God grateful of is like my group
you
of
have
guys.
A really good
I
group
have
of people.
Like, and the social media is a pain, but I like to think I'm doing something right if I'm attracting these people. And to have these men, bro, that are like coming into the program, like I see people in my life. I have examples in my life of people going down one path. I don't want to go down that path. Or they're like, hey, I've done the shortcut. I've done the 6-week, you know, challenge. I've done the, you know, 4-week challenge. Like I've done all this shit. I just want to do it the right way. And like, I'm so grateful to be working with those guys, man.
Yeah, no, you have a really good group of clients. And then, so yeah, be able to train the people I want to train, be able to be CEO, right? Play more of that CEO role. And, you know, eventually like the goal would be like create systems and processes for this place that, you know, replicate it. Yep. That work and replicate it and open up multiple locations. And, you know, that's kind of the goal, the big vision. You know, I know one place down in North Carolina. There may be more, but there's not very many people with this same split concept.
Yeah, maybe talk a little bit about, I mean, like we said, we literally were over there before this. 24,000 square foot, 12,000 24/7 side, 12,000 performance side. Like maybe like go into the details a little bit of what that looks like.
Yeah. So on the 24/7 side, we're gonna have we have a physical therapist that we're partnered with that's gonna have an office there. We have a recovery room that's gonna have 2 saunas, 3 cold tubs, and 2 red light therapy rooms. And then we're going to have 2 locker rooms, men's, women's locker room. We'll have 2 classrooms. One's definitely going to be a yoga studio. We're still playing around with what other types of classes we want to offer in the studio rooms. We're thinking potentially Pilates. We're thinking, Zumba or HIIT classes out of the classrooms. And then we have basically it's 8,000 square foot of open 24-hour gym. There's going to be a 100-foot strip of turf. And then we have Sornex racks.
Elite equipment.
Yeah, top of the line Sornex racks. I wanted to create a space that was, aesthetic, kind of to be able to attract a younger generation.
It's definitely luxury. It's going to be a luxury gym.
Right.
It's going to be sick.
So, Sornex racks and equipment. Primal is a newer company out of Ireland. Their stuff is sick. If you haven't seen it, go look it up. But they're doing all of our machines. We'll have plate loaded and pin loaded. Tons of different like specialty machines that not a lot of gyms have. Tons of different like we'll have. Like, for example, we have a lying leg curl, we have a standing leg curl, and we have a regular leg curl. We have plate loaded and pin select. Like, we have just tons of different variations of different pieces of equipment. And then cardio, in my vision, we're not going to have a huge cardio deck. Like, this place is to come in, get your work in, lift heavy, lift hard, and leave. We have 2 power treadmills. We have 2 ellipticals. We have 2 stair steppers and 2 bikes. And then everything else is manual. We have the Woodway manual treadmills. We have Echo bikes. We have ski ergs and rowers, all on the 24/7 side. We're going to have some pretty dope lighting in there. It's going to be a cool spot. We're going to have a little lounge area right out by the weight room as well, where you can kind of hang out, eat some food, watch some TV. We want it to kind of be a vibe where people want to be here. We want to create a community where people want to hang out at the gym. We want it to be almost like not just a gym, but like a social club.
Yes.
Like, we want people to be involved. We're going to do events. Like, we want people to host events and community things, and we're going to run challenges and keep people involved, not only just with fitness, but with life in general. Like, we want people to want to work out of there. Like, we'll have a lounge. We want people to want to be there and be a part of what we're doing. And that's, all on the 24/7 side. So that's just one side.
Yep.
Then on the other side, this is like where I'm going to live. This is the performance center. We will have, it's about 2,000 square foot of rubber, and we'll have, again, Sornex racks, dumbbells, and then a few machines. If you played football at Ohio State or know anything, we're going to have some hammer rows in there, which is like a huge staple of what we did. So we'll have a few hammer row machines, some reverse hypers, and then the same manual cardio equipment. So we got some like assault runners and ski ergs and rowers and stuff. And then the rest of it is literally just 10,000 square foot of turf. So we have a strip that will run a full 60 yards, so 180 feet, to be able to do. I want to really dive into some combine training in the next few years and pro day training. So we'll be able to run a full 40-yard dash inside. And then so that's including, so there'll be a little turf patch next to the rubber. And so like that full strip is 60 yards. And then we have a full 40-yard by 25-yard indoor field that we'll use for training, but then will also be available for rental. So like soccer clubs need indoor space, lacrosse teams, or then even like skills trainers. So I know people that like CJ, who was on this podcast with Zach, he's going to start to get into doing some wide receiver training. So he's going to come and rent some space to be able to do some training, more like skill specific training. There's like some D-line coaches around here that want to come and do some stuff. We also will have, I don't know yet. 2 to 4 batting cages. I'm waiting to get the quotes back. We will have 2 to 4 batting cages for baseball teams to be able to rent or just individual rental. The goal would be to start some like baseball training programs. So where like part of your team is doing hitting and pitching, part of your team is doing fielding on the other part of the turf, and then part of your team is doing speed, agility, and strength with me. And then you're like rotating through. So that's kind of the gist of the facility. There's not really anything like it around here that is kind of a one-stop shop. We're still working out the details, but we're going to have some sort of like grab and go cafe. So we'll have some food. And we're working with some cool sponsors and partnerships for supplements and like grab and go drinks and shakes and stuff like that too.
The absolute powerhouse of a facility.
Yeah. It's
gonna be sick, dude.
Yeah, this has been kind of the dream for me for a long time. So
well, bro,
I'm excited.
It encompasses like being relentless is like your whole brand, bro. And like relentless is the brand, and you literally live that. And I'm so big on that. Like I talk about that in the last couple episodes of just like me practicing what I preach. I'm so passionate about that. Like I'm never going to be the guy that like talk about this and live it up. Like I'm going to align the actions with the talk. And dude, that your whole journey and story is like relentless, you being relentless, you pushing through. I think of Matt, like the investor. We literally, you and I presented to an investor here in Dublin, Ohio, literally, had it all laid out, bro. Like we pitched to an investor, and your persistence, because again, like you said, we had that very mature conversation where we were both just going different ways. I knew you were super passionate about the gym too. And I'm like, I want to support you in that. And I'm still, I want to be along that ride to continue to support you. But dude, I just think it's epic that like you still, even beyond then, persisted, and Matt came around, bro, and literally you got the investment.
So kind of what he's talking about is like we started this back in 2020 or whatever. I had a client who happens to have a lot of money, and we presented to her husband. And at first he was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, he was like about it.
Yeah, and me and Zach were like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. Like,
and then pen came to paper.
Yeah, pen came to paper. Like things slowed down a little bit. Like we needed to find a facility, and we would find a facility, and then we couldn't get the money in time. And so like things were just logistically not working out at the time. Like in this process, like I have been, and then I think pretty soon after that is where me and Zach kind of split. He went and did his online stuff. I'm still like, then at that point, I'm like, not like reeling, but like trying to figure out like, do I still want to do this by myself? Do I need to find another partner? Like, can I do this on my own? Like that type of thing. And so I just kind of like, just kept moving along. I was just like, all right, I'm just going to keep doing this. And like, if things, fall into place, they're going to fall into place. So I have looked at multiple, like probably like, not just multiple, like 50 different facilities
in Columbus,
and have been like working on this like nonstop
while running a business,
while still training. I was in contract on a building in Dublin, and the zoning fell through. And so we couldn't buy the building because it wasn't zoned to be a gym. So that took, a good 6 months of my life. Then, we had looked at potentially like converting this building, and then we had to rent out some of the other buildings to someone else because it was too big of a space. That took another 6 months of my life. Then I was going to have a new build warehouse, in a similar spot to here. It was going to be 28,000 square feet. We were going to have a full outdoor football field. Like these guys were really talking up a good game about like how much money they were going to give for tenant allowance and like all this stuff. And we were like literally like, so the rent was supposed to be one thing. We literally get all the way. I'm telling you, we had everything planned out, the entire facility built, a year of work. And, pen comes to paper, and like they give me the lease, and the lease is $10 more a square foot than what they said it was going to be. So we started off at like $14 a square foot, and they were like, yeah, we got some quotes back. It's going to be $28 a square foot. And I was like,
are you kidding me?
No. So like, then now that's a year of work just kind of down the drain. And I'm like back to square one. And, my realtor, this is now last September maybe. And my realtor was like, hey, there's a new build warehouse like going up. It's 24,000 square feet. It's supposed to have like 6 tenants, but like maybe we just tell them if we get in early enough, we can customize it to whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, let's just like see what this is all about. And like we met with the people and they are giving me a really good TI allowance and it's like new build and I can kind of design it the way I want. And things kind of fell into place. And like, I think like,
yeah. How did it happen with Matt?
So I'm going, so we're not even there yet. So like we're going to like I have everything laid out. We're going to sign the lease. Like I have to get a loan for this, right? Like I have investors, but it's not enough. Like most of this is my money. So I had to put money in and then I had to get a loan and then I have a few investors that are helping. But I go like, I'm literally, because I had done the info with the bank, they're like, yeah, you're pre-approved. Which that doesn't mean approved, apparently. That means pre-approved.
Yep.
So I sign the lease. I sign a lease, 10 years of my life, $30,000 a month. And like, I'm thinking like, well, one, I'm scared because $30,000 a month is a huge nut every month.
Yeah.
And then I go and the bank is like, hey, like, we're not going to be able to fund you. So the guy that I was working with at the bank, he left. And so like my paperwork and everything got like lost basically. And then the guy was, I guess, like pretty high up and pulling some strings for me to be able to get this done because he liked me. And when he left, like
it kind of fucked it all. It
kind of messed it all up and everything fell apart. And so like I just signed a lease for that. I put down my lease deposit, which was everything I have. When I was done with that, I literally had less than $1,000 left in my bank account. Like this whole thing is like everything I have. And so I was like reeling, like I'm like trying to figure out like calling different banks, like, do you guys have SBAs? Are you SBA like approved lender? Can we get this done quick? Yada yada yada. I found a bank. I found Buckeye State Bank and they were like, yeah, we can see what we can do. They were taking forever. And like my dad is decently well connected and he like somehow knew of the president and like called and left a message and it was just like, hey, is this really how you guys want to do business? You're stringing my son along, yada, yada, yada. And boom, next day, like I get the approval letter. Everything's good. I finally get approved. Like, you just like breathe like a sigh of relief that you.
I know that people can feel that.
Yeah. And like at that point, I didn't even have any investors. I was just like me on my own. And like I was going to be on like a shoestring type budget.
Yes.
Like, and
you're still going to make it happen though.
Yeah. I was going to make it happen no matter what. So I was just going to, do some things a little bit less than what I was going to do. And I was going to try and phase some things in and like that type of stuff as we were building out. And I was like, let me just like see if I can go talk to our first investor. I still train his wife. Like he was really interested, but it was like when push came to shove,
there's
like,
just so much.
There was just so much logistics wise, like getting the money from him in the amount of time I needed to close and the amount of time. But now like all that's
hurdle
done.
was dealt with.
Yeah, all that's done. The building's signed for, my deposit's down. I'm approved for my loan. And now I just need some extra operating cash to be able to do some of the things that I want to do. So I, give him a call. I'm like, hey, back.
Hey man, remember me?
Yeah. So like he was like, man, you're still doing this? And I was like, yep. And I was like, I'm a little bit further along than I was before. I have a building. It is like I signed a lease. I have a loan. I just need some, extra operating cash. Would you still be interested in investing? We can still do the same deal we did before. Like, and, we made our deal, whatever it was. And, he was basically like, this isn't going to be like, this dude has millions of dollars. So it's like, he's like, this isn't going to be a cash cow for me, but just so you know, I'm just doing this because like, I know you're going to make it work because you're still doing this right now.
Bro.
Like
and
3 to 4 years later, he was like, you're still working on this and like, you're still trying to get this done. And like, I know the amount of hours that you put into this. And if you put the amount of hours and the same amount of work into getting this done as you do once it's open, then like, I know it's going to be successful.
Dude.
So he's like, so I believe in you. You know, you've always been good to my family and my wife. And so like, I'm going to give you the money. And so like at that point, then I was like, okay, now we can like,
now we're
really
getting
get
it
this
done.
stuff going. And so then, you know, we're rolling, and like, I knew that this was going to happen because like, I just know them and I know me. But, you know, then I started showing my NFL guys around. I'm like, hey man, this is what I'm doing. This is what I have, you know,
versus being like, hey, I need you.
Yeah. Right. Like at first,
hey, now I'm doing it, dude.
Yeah. So at first, like I had gone to them about like, hey, you know, I know you guys believe in me. You keep coming back. I know you know, appreciate what I do for you. We're training out of this really small, not great facility. You know, let's
upgrade.
Yeah. And, you know, at first they were just kind of like, nobody really believes it until they see it, or like, no, like, cause I had them go out and look at buildings with me before, cause they had been interested, but then it was just like, well, if he gets it done, then like, maybe I'll consider it, blah,
right.
blah, blah. Then I took one of my guys out, and he's like, dude, this is awesome. Love what you're doing. Love you. Let's do it. And so then I got, you know, another potential investor. And so it's like, now we can like
now we're talking,
really
dude.
do some things. And so that's where like, now, you know, we're talking about, you know, the tech that we can put in, and like some of the things that we can do on the performance side, and some of like the upgrades that we can do. And it's just going to be like,
it's going to be epic.
Yeah.
Like I'm here to say it's going to be the sickest facility in the city, and probably like one of the sickest cities or facilities in the nation.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's awesome how like it's all come together.
But think about this, dude. Like you are a relentless.
Yes.
You are a relentless motherfucker. And like, dude, I want people to like, they heard that story, bro. Yeah. Like, I think you have a very unique gift that all of these other guys on this podcast have, that I have, where when we want something and we have the vision, the vision is set. And I think we learn this as athletes, but once that vision, like, you know, and you knew this whole time, like where you want to be and the goal, the vision. And it's literally once you have that and you kind of like, you plant that flag, it's basically like, I don't care, like literally whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
And that's going to be on your wall, I know, in the gym, but that's true. Like, think about how many people try something and give up first attempt. Think how many people go into their fitness journey, fall off of their first attempt, try to open a gym, fall off at their first attempt, try to open a business, fall off in their first attempt. Years and years and years of persistence, of constant showing up, persistence. I mean, holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
And pretty fucking awesome.
I think about the saying that, I think I posted this on my story a couple weeks ago, but I think about the saying like one door closes, another door opens, but like sometimes you just got to bust down the door.
Sometimes
like,
you do, bro.
Like the door closes and you just got to bust it down. Cause like, if you want something that bad and are that passionate about it, like nothing should be able to stop you from getting it done.
Yes.
And
I'm so glad that you experienced that.
Yeah.
And like I got that taste with my Ohio State experience where it was like everybody telling me this is impossible. I fucking did it.
Yeah.
And it's like same thing with you. It's like so many people telling you it's impossible, you can't do it, and you did it.
Yeah.
And dude, that shit's priceless.
Yeah. And I mean, we still have a long way to go. Like we got to make this gym profitable and successful. Like, so like we're still working, like we haven't made it yet. I haven't like necessarily breathed that sigh of relief yet because, you know, now it's, you know, making sure.
Now it's go time.
Yeah. Now it's go time.
But that'll be part 2.
Yeah.
Part 2 episode. We'll talk about the gym open and everything you're doing there.
So, but yeah, I mean, and I think another important thing, like that if you're a young entrepreneur, whether you're in the fitness industry or wherever you're at, like, it's all about who you know, but it's also more about who knows you. And like being well versed and well connected in different industries. Like the guy that is investing like has nothing to do with fitness.
Nothing to do
like,
with it.
And he doesn't look like it either. No offense to Matt, but like it's not that he's passionate about fitness or whatever. Like he's passionate about me and like what I'm doing and like helping me be successful. And so you want to have those people around you and that know you and who you are as a person and how hard you'll work to help carry you through like these hard times that you're going to have, like
100%
when you're, you know, done being an athlete or when you're, you know, starting your business career or whatever it is that you're doing. Cause as much as you want to think like, and I still do this sometimes, like, oh, I did it on myself.
Dude,
I did it on my own.
There's
There's so many
yeah.
people that help you along the way.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So like if I was a young me or a young athlete or entrepreneur, I would be doing as much as I can to like squeeze the juice out of like every experience with people around you. Like I said, I didn't play at Ohio State. I really didn't ever really think I was going to play at Ohio State, but I squeezed the juice out of that experience, like everything that I could get out of that experience as far as networking with coaches, talking to the strength and conditioning staff. Like I knew what I wanted to do, talking to the physical therapist, then getting in an internship with them, like using that experience to like springboard myself into my next career. Has been huge. So I think that, if I was a young me, I would say, make sure you're squeezing the juice and networking with as many people as you can.
1000%. And I'm just going to take that one tiny step further. And it's like, get clear on that vision.
Yeah.
Because what did we say? It's like, once that vision is set and you know it, it's really just, I just got to work through all the shit to get there. But I think so many people don't get clear on that vision first. And then they get like, the water gets mudded along the way, and then they get distracted by all these different things.
And I think that it's hard too when, like, especially for like high level athletes, like your goal is like NFL or nothing.
Yeah.
Like if you have a plan B, like it's hard to know, but like a lot of people say,
like I didn't even have a plan B, and
a lot of people say like when you have a plan B, that means that you're not trying hard enough on plan A.
Right.
So like most of these guys are like, it's NFL or bust for me. Okay, well you bust. Like once you are out, it's really hard to get back.
Really hard.
And then it's like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And so like, that's where you're talking about like being clear on that vision. Like it might take some time
to find that new vision.
Yeah. To find out what that new thing is. And I think maybe you kind of talked about that with CJ on the last episode. Like, he had a crazy story and made it to the NFL. But then he's like, well, now my career's over. Like, now what? So,
yeah.
And that might take some time. And now that he's found what he's doing, he has that vision now, and now he's like tackling it like he would with everything else that he's doing.
100%.
Yeah.
Dude, no, I love this, Jackson. This was, bro, absolutely epic. I mean, we really did. I feel like we got a lot of the good stuff in there that I wanted to talk about, bro.
Yeah.
And I mean, this was just epic. And I know we're going to do it again. I know I want to do a part 2 gym open, talking about what we're doing, and what you're doing over there and stuff. And so, dude, I'm so excited about this. I appreciate you coming on. This was just a phenomenal conversation.
Yeah,
dog.
no, I mean, I appreciate you having me. Relentless Collective opening June 2025. Stop in Plain City, Ohio.
And I'll link all of Jackson's stuff in the show notes, but you guys can follow him on Instagram at Jackson Hayes. You have a number
44.
associated? 44? Yeah, at Jackson Hayes 44. And then his Relentless Train account as well. You guys can stay up to date on all of his stuff. If you guys are listening on YouTube, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. And then if you guys are on Spotify or Apple, make sure to leave a 5-star and a review for us. And be tuning into the next episode, guys. Really appreciate you guys tuning in for this episode. This was awesome, Jackson. Appreciate you, dude.
Yep. Peace.